The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. This is Hilda Bustos, and welcome to Optimizing Your Website and Being Smartphone Friendly. This is the last webinar in a series of 4. I truly appreciate your participation, especially those grantees that participated with us on the Fair Housing Media Campaign launch. There's still more campaign activities to conduct as the performance period will be over November 29th. The social media aspect is very, very critical nowadays, as you all know. So these webinars are developed for you so that you can either refresh or implement new strategies, in whether it's the Fair Housing Campaign or your own organizational campaigns. Today, our presenter is Laura Calderon. She's got over 15 years experience in communications and public relations. And she's going to walk you through this webinar and explain to you how important it is that you really always take a second look at your website. It's the digital first impression that people get, and important things that sometimes we don't realize are important unless you're a user or a visitor to the website. You need to keep in mind, and so we hope you find this last webinar helpful, and if you have any questions or follow-up, please give us a call or write us. So here we go. NALCAB, for those of you who aren't familiar with us, our mission is to build financial and real estate assets as well as human and technological resources for Latino families, communities, and organizations. NALCAB was awarded a grant by HUD to conduct this National Fair Housing Media Campaign, so that we might use traditional and social media boots on the ground approach to link HUD with consumers who are experiencing discriminatory housing. Our campaign launched last week in Washington, D.C., and we did pretty well. We were able to get a little over 41 million media impressions when you look at the broadcasting and earned media exposure that we got. From a social media standpoint, we have a little close to 1,000 points of engagement. So thank you to our campaign markets in Los Angeles, San Antonio, McAllen, Birmingham, Chicago, Brooklyn, Metro Washington, D.C., and Metro Denver. I was particularly glad to see everybody use the timeline cover photos as well as the triads, both vertically and horizontally, in the social media approach. So here we go. We're going to get started. Laura, please take it away.
All right. Thank you, Hilda, and good day to everyone. Let's review today's agenda. First of all, we are going to be discussing, or I will be discussing, how to assess your website for user friendliness. I'm going to give you some tips on how to increase your visits to your sites, and some tips on writing for the web because it is different. I'll also talk about some specific elements that apply to a nonprofit website. I'm also going to cover search engine optimization, or SEO, why it's important, and some tips on how to do SEO. I'm also going to be covering social media optimization, or SMO. We'll take a look at SMO, how it's different from SEO, its importance, and how to do SMO. And finally, I'll be giving you an overview on how your website can be mobile friendly. In other words, how does your website look and work on a mobile device? This presentation is not going to delve into the technical side of websites, SEO, SMO, and going mobile. My goal is to give you just enough information to get you started to do your own research, so then you can talk to your tech person or your tech consultant. All right, your website is your organization, except that it exists in the virtual world, and it is where many people go to meet you, to find information about you. For example, how to get help from you, or possibly to even make a donation. So making sure that the virtual you in the form of your website is in good shape is important. I'm going to begin by giving you a framework for assessing your website. And you may not be in a position to redesign your website or make major changes, and you may not have to, but keep in mind that a website is one of those things that is put in place, and over time it continues to grow and change, usually without a real plan or a goal in mind. If you're aware of what's important in a website, what to look for, then you can help direct those piecemeal changes or even a redesign. Here you have 8 areas that I will cover as I talk about assessing your website. These come from the 2013 Web Design Best Practices Checklist by Dr. Terry Murphy. The link to the checklist is on the resources slide. Under each of these areas, and there are various elements to look for, and I've only included a few from the checklist. There are more, so please, at your leisure, review the checklist on your own. Let's take a quick look at each of these areas. All right, page layout. The first thing you see there is having a consistent site header and logo. The site header is at the top of your home page, and it's one of the first things a user sees when landing on your home page. Typically, your logo is there as well. Both of these are the most visible components of the site's identity, so consistency in appearance and location on subsequent pages is important too. Next point, consistent navigation area. This is where you provide links to various parts of your website. Again, it should be repeated on each page, placed in the same place, and titled the same. Next, an informative page title with your organization name. And this means exactly what it says. If a person doesn't land on your home page but somewhere else within your site, a page title and your name lets them know where they have landed. Next is page footer. Your page footer should have a copyright, a last update, date, your contact information. Now most of this is self-explanatory, and I'll be showing you all of this in just a moment. Note that the last update. This helps people know that they can rely on the information they find, and as someone who does a lot of information gathering from websites, it's very helpful and reassuring to see. You also want your web page to display without horizontal scrolling. I'm seeing this less often, but it's still there. How many times have you landed on a website and it doesn't display entirely? So you have to scroll from left to right to read the page or just to see the page. If this has happened to you, then you know how distracting it is. And what did you probably do? You left the website before you accomplished what you had set out to do. Now, your home page should have compelling information above bold. In the olden days, when we still had newspapers, and I do say that facetiously, the most visible and desirable placement for a story was above the fold. Well, in today's world of the internet and websites, above the fold means that portion of the site that first appears on your screen without any scrolling. And then the last piece to page layout that I'm showing here is rapid homepage downloads. The standard that I found was within 10 seconds on a dial-up connection, so it should be much less for broadband. Now let me mention here a website that I found from Ping. The address is tools.pingdom.com. This is a site where you can test your download time, and I've included their address on the resource slide at the end of this presentation. Okay, here's a diagram of a standard web page. And typically this is the format that many website or web page designs follow. As you can see here, you've got up at the left-hand corner your logo, and your header is here, as I mentioned earlier. Over on this side, you have other information like your navigation, your identity goes in this area here. You've also got other navigation links. These would be your global navigation links. Down here, it mentions breadcrumb trail, and basically what this would be is, when you're deep into a website, if you look up towards the top, you'll see home, probably an arrow, and then it'll say maybe housing, and then it'll say their housing program. So that's your breadcrumb trail to let you know how you got there. All right, in reference to navigation, a consistent navigation area that I had mentioned before, your global navigation elements are for navigating the major sections of the site, and that's what this piece is for here. Your local navigation over here are the elements for navigating locally within a subset of your pages. So what you have here is you've got your informative page title up towards the top. Down here at the bottom, I mentioned your page footer. There's the copyright, the last update, and contact information. And now I'm going to show you an above the fold website or web page. Here is NALCAB's above the fold page. And this is, excuse me, a screenshot that was produced for me at where'sthefold.com that I mentioned earlier. This is a free website from Ping. So if you're serious about addressing your website, and you don't have to guess what above the fold means for your website. This site shows you. And I've included the web address on your resource slide. There are many free assessment tools on the web like this one to help you, and I'll be pointing out more later. Now on to the NALCAB page. Notice the information that pops up above the fold. Our name and our logo is prominent at the top left, and our mission is front and center. And highlighted in this space to the right is one of our most recent and important initiatives, the Fair Housing Media campaign that Hilda mentioned. And so this reminds me that NALCAB has a web page dedicated to all of the resource materials for the Fair Housing campaign. And this webinar will be posted there in a PDF format so you can download it, and also as a media file if you need to access it. This presentation will be posted there in a few days. And again, I've included the URL for NALCAB's resource page on the resource slide. And while you're there, please take a look at the electronic and print materials being used in the Fair Housing campaign. They're downloadable, and please feel free to use them if it's appropriate for your organization. The resource page was set up specifically for our Fair Housing campaign partners, but it's open to all of our members. And just as a reminder, as Hilda mentioned as well, this webinar is the last in the series of 4 that NALCAB has put on with HUD funding. Because social media is such a big part of the Fair Housing campaign, our goal has been to make sure that our partners are well supported in that area. So let's continue on with assessing websites, and let's look at navigation. All right, navigation. Here we're talking about how you move around on a website. You want links to be clearly and consistently marked. And by consistently, we mean use the same name and the same appearance. You want your navigation easy to use for your target audience. Does your target audience have any abilities or disabilities that you need to consider for your website? For example, do you serve the elderly? Is it easy for them to read? I'll be talking more about this later. Also, navigation links at the bottom of the page. Have you ever read down to the bottom of a web page and you want to get back up to the top to navigate to another page, but the only way to do that is to scroll back up? Putting navigation links at the bottom addresses this. Your sitemap. When you can't find the information you're looking for on a website, a sitemap helps you find it quickly. Usually you find it at the top right-hand side, but not always. Sometimes it's hard to find or it's not there at all. So not only are sitemaps user-friendly, they help with search engine optimization, which I'll talk about later. All right, let's move on to color and graphics. This is really about being visually and aesthetically pleasing, but it's also about readability. Your color scheme typically should be limited to 3 to 4 colors plus a neutral. And there are lots of resources on the web that will help you identify good color schemes, but this is usually tied to your organizational colors. Next point is consistent color scheme. This is something that you definitely want to carry throughout, because the color scheme represents you, because it should be tied to your logo. All right, next point, and this is a big point here, your text color should contrast with your background color. When the contrast between your text and your background is not there, it's very hard to read. And it's also unprofessional when a website can't meet the basic requirement of website design. Now, I'm sure you've come across that before. I've seen great text on a black background and light blue text on the light gray background. It was so frustrating that I left both sides within seconds. Next point here is animated images should not be distracting. Animated images are great, and they can very much reinforce what a nonprofit is trying to do, but they can distract rather than enhance, so you need to be careful. And the other point here is that you probably want to avoid nonstop animation. All right, multimedia. If you have video or audio, make sure that it serves a purpose, that it enhances your site and your mission. Video and images especially can be very powerful, but they can detract if they're not chosen wisely. If you have music, be sure that your user can stop it whenever they want. And please don't loop it for nonstop playing. I was on an architect's website recently, and when I landed on their homepage, music started. Then there was a rotating set with beautiful photographs of structures that they had built. And I couldn't stop the rotation of the photos to view them more closely, and I couldn't stop the annoying music. It forced me to quickly click out. It seemed to be a case of the website owner being more concerned with bells and whistles than meaningful content or multimedia that truly supported their goals. All right, if you do have multimedia, make sure that you have provided the links to those multimedia plugins. If you have that, if you've got that kind of multimedia on your website, be sure that you have the links to Windows Media Player, Adobe Flash, QuickTime, Real Player, and any others that you might need. All right, functionality. You simply want to be sure here that your links and your forms work by checking them periodically, especially your donate form. Okay, now we're on to accessibility. When I talk about web accessibility, this refers to making websites usable by people of all abilities and disabilities. When sites are correctly designed, developed, and edited, all users can have access to information and functions. For example, when a site is coded in a certain way with text equivalents for images and with links named meaningfully, this helps blind users using text-to-speech software or text-to-braille hardware. When text and images are large or they're enlargeable, it's easier for users with poor sight to read and understand the content. So accessibility includes navigation aids such as a sitemap, like I mentioned earlier, and breadcrumbs. It also includes color. You should make sure that your color is not used alone to convey meaning. And so what that means is you have to have the text to support your color coding. Again, you need to make sure that your text color contrasts with your background color. This is especially helpful for people that have visual impairments and in general for anybody that's trying to read your website. And then if graphics or media are used, make sure that you have an alternate text equivalent provided. Again, if someone can't see, hear, or click on the media, the text makes it accessible to them or any software or hardware that they use to help them. All right, now we're on to content presentation. This includes your fonts. Not all fonts translate well on all platforms, so stick to those that do. And typically that's Arial, Times Roman, others that work well are Helvetica and Courier. You want to be consistent when you use a particular kind of font and the sizes and the colors. This is really about aesthetics, but also about communicating information about your page. For example, your titles might be dark green, but your subheadings are lighter green. This communicates to someone scanning your web page looking for information, and it makes their task easier. You want your information easy to find. This is about having a good outline of your website content and presenting it in a logical manner. But it's also about placement or spotlighting. In other words, placing or somehow spotlighting the most important information people are after so it's easily found. The rule of thumb is 2 to 3 clicks should get you there. And then please, no outdated material. If the photo on your home page in October 2013 is the end of school party your organization sponsored in May, it might be time to change it. This makes the viewer wonder if anything else has happened since then. So please, once again, no outdated material. Links to other useful sites. People visit a site for many different reasons, and oftentimes links to other sites are very helpful. It can also boost your credibility by showing who you're associated with. Those organizations that you link to appreciate it, and this helps establish a relationship that will later help you with social media optimization, which I'll cover in just a little bit. All right, hyperlinks. Be sure that you use consistent colors for sites that have been visited and non-visited. I think that most websites these days follow this rule, but I just wanted to mention it. You know that an unclicked hyperlink doesn't have to be blue. You can change that color, but you probably shouldn't because that's what people recognize as an unclicked hyperlink. All right, avoid the use of click here. This is something that I learned in putting this presentation together. I'm guilty of using click here. The reason that you don't want to use click here is that it's not modern, it's not search engine optimization friendly, it's not informative, and it's not action oriented. So here's an example of action oriented, and I don't have this on the slide, so please listen. This is the bad example. Enjoy what you see? Click here to subscribe to our blog for free updates. Here's the good example. Enjoy what you see? Subscribe to our blog for free updates. So really, the only difference between the bad example and the good example is that in the bad example, or rather in the good example, the words click here were taken out. And all we say is subscribe to our blog for free updates, and the hyperlink would be subscribe to our blog. So be aware of that as you develop your hyperlinks. All right, now we're on to nonprofit websites. Nonprofits are unique creatures, and your website should reflect that. It needs to offer more than a typical corporate website. It should be easy to find out about your cause. It should be easy to find out how to donate money and how to volunteer. It also needs to make it easy for media contacts to find the information they want and the contact information for key people. And you need to do all of this in a way that's appealing to your targeted donors, your funders, your volunteers, and elected officials and community leaders. So now that we've reviewed some general website basics, we're going to look specifically at the nonprofit website. All right, this is a compilation of best practices that I pulled from various sources. I think that most of us intuitively know these best practices, whether we're a communicator by profession or not. But it's always good to take a few minutes to review because in the course of our daily work, it is easy to lose sight of the obvious. So here we go. First thing is know your audience. Without knowing who your website is serving, you're shooting in the dark. No matter how hard you try, it's going to be difficult to create an effective nonprofit website, one that meets the needs of your constituents and helps you achieve your mission. Every bit of content should showcase your mission, which typically involves focusing on their needs. Who are your key groups and what do they care about? How do they interact with your site? As an example, the audiences for NALCAB's website are policymakers like legislators and their staffs, funders, other NALCAB members, and then the general public. Knowing this helps define the content and tone of our website. This also means using the right language. You want to avoid industry jargon and acronyms. Keep it simple and include descriptors for clarity, and that also helps with search engine optimization. You need to be very clear about the purpose of your website. The ideal situation is that the leaders of your organization or whoever's in charge of your website make a list of the goals for the site before starting the design process. Is the site primarily to allow existing members to stay updated? Is it to solicit donations? Is it to get new members or volunteers? Or is it to raise awareness in general? Whatever your purpose is, knowing it and communicating it to your designer saves headaches and delays down the road. I know that most of you are beyond the design stage, but it's never too late to clarify the purpose of your website and to use that as a guide going forward. You want to highlight your mission on your homepage. I'm sure you've visited a website's homepage before and you didn't have any clue as to what that site was about. Your homepage makes a first impression and users form an opinion within the first few seconds of landing there. So it's important that your mission is clear. 60% of all donors check out a website before donating, so you should tell them quickly what you're about before they change their minds. And you do that with words and also with images. If you can't do that on your homepage, then be sure you have a prominent link on your homepage that immediately takes them to that information. Wherever you place it, your mission should be in concise, clear language, no jargon. It also helps if that language mirrors the keywords and phrases people are likely to use when searching for you or your mission. Number 4, prominent contact us information. This is one of the best and easiest ways to show people that you're real. Staff names, phone numbers, and addresses give people a sense of trust and accessibility, and many times that is the exact content that they're looking for when they go to your site. Use compelling images. The online world is visual and there's no way around it. Strong images can help you build connections that words alone just can't do. So be sure that your organization's story is supported by strong images that show what you do, who you serve, and what you accomplish. All right, number 6, call to action. Quite often when you read about how to market anything, whether it's something tangible like a product or an intangible like an idea, you see the acronym CTA, call to action, meaning what do you want your reader to do? You want them to donate? You want them to volunteer? Sign a petition? Whatever that action is, be sure that your CTA is stated clearly and boldly. Instead of saying click here, say become a volunteer today, or please give $50 today. And it's even better if you can tie it to something tangible like your donation of $50 today means a week of meals for a family. Number 7, be donor friendly. If your CTA or call to action is about getting donations, your website should make it easy to donate with a prominent Donate Now button. There's no guarantee, unfortunately, that anyone will use it, but you should make it easy for your visitors to support you. Make sure that your donation page is linked from your home page with a button or banner, or that it's highly visible in your navigation panel. Once a donor is on your donation page, you want to keep it simple. Keep the process to one page and avoid having them set up an account. And don't require them to give any more information than is necessary to process their credit card or their e-check. Be sure that your website provides a confirmation that their donation has been received. All right, number 8, be volunteer friendly. The same thing goes for volunteers. The simpler the better, and the more likely that they will complete the process. Number 9, be media friendly. You can do this by setting up a link to a press room or a media room. Make sure that you include basic information about your organization, as well as press releases, downloadable brochures, and contact information. Then, consistency with your organizational, or rather with other organizational materials. Your logo and your colors should be consistent across all of your communication materials, including your website and any other online presence that you might have, like Facebook or Twitter. When you have a consistent brand throughout your organization, it greatly increases your chances of being recognized in passing. Think of the American Red Cross and how recognizable they are just through their logo. All right, number 11, showcase your stewardship. I mentioned earlier that 60% of donors visit a website before making a donation. They want to know that their gift will make an impact, and your website can show them that. Your website can include success stories, testimonials, statistics, and other types of information that proves your organization is meeting its mission. Think about including simple charts that show how your money is spent and where it comes from. Most nonprofits produce annual reports that include financial data, and posting these to your website is a good way to showcase your stewardship as well as your accomplishments. I'm on nonprofit websites pretty often, and I'm surprised at how frequently this information is not included. Number 12, be social media friendly. If you have a social media presence, and you should at least be on Facebook, your website should provide links to those channels and vice versa. The real power of social media is not just using those channels, but in integrating them so your organization can extend its reach. Number 13, email or newsletter sign-up. This should be a prominent item on your site, and it should be the easiest action for a visitor to take. It's always good to have a statement reassuring them that their email address will only be used by your organization. Number 14, excuse me, we're high in allergens in San Antonio today, and it's affecting me here. Just a minute, please. All right, number 14, use multimedia. Think of your website as your broadcasting station. If you don't have media coverage that you want or that you deserve, your website is it. So take a multimedia approach with video, images, text, interactivity, and audio. Another good reason to use multimedia is that your website visitors consume content in various ways, so this allows them to get the content in multiple ways that they might be interested in. Last is number 15, search function and sitemap. These two features help your website visitors get to their destination as quickly as possible. A typical visitor won't click more than 3 times to find the information they're looking for, and the research says that you lose 40% of your visitors with each click. They went to your website for a reason, so make sure that they can find what they're looking for quickly and easily with a search feature and a sitemap. All right. Everybody wants to increase the number of visitors to their website, so let's take a look at some ways to do that. First of all, you want to include your URL on all your printed materials, your letterhead, your business cards, your annual report, direct mail. You take full advantage of your existing communications by including an article that highlights what's available on your site or what's new. You can add compelling information so that people will understand the value that your website adds. For example, on a flyer that advertises an upcoming festival, don't just say, visit our website, but instead say, visit our website for a complete schedule of events, a list of the entertainment, games, and food booths that will be available. Also, think about incentives to visit your website. You can tell people that they can register for a drawing that sends them to their website, or you can pose a question in your newsletter or your Facebook page and tell them to go to your website for the answer. If you do that, be sure to include the link to make it easy for them to go onto your website. And press releases. If you make a significant change to your website or you add a new feature, think about sending a press release to online and offline media and relevant bloggers, especially those that cover nonprofits. They may or may not cover it immediately, but it's good information for them to know. If they were online, just like you, they will always be on the lookout for content, and there might be a payoff later. And in particular, don't forget the community or neighborhood newspapers that are online. Email links. Even though we have social media, email is still a good way to communicate with your audience. You can include brief pieces of information with links to your website that people can click on to get more information from your site. You can also get traffic to your website by publishing content in email newsletters or of other organizations with similar interests. Be on the lookout for organizations with similar audiences that have email newsletters and strike up a partnership with them to help promote your site. Also think about online communities and forums. This is another way to drive traffic to your website by sharing your information with online communities and forums. Encourage your staff to join and participate in these conversations to help increase your organization's visibility for your site. Advocacy campaigns. If your organization is undertaking an advocacy campaign, like a fair housing campaign or some other issue, local media might cover this and then include a link to your website when they post a story on their own website. And this strategy just doesn't have to be about advocacy campaigns. It could be about a new program or an effort to raise awareness of an existing program. The idea here is that when the media covers you, they will typically include the story on their website, and that will have a link to your organization. All right, social media links. Use social media links to complement your outreach. Include links to your website on your Facebook and your Twitter accounts when you post information about an event or a program. Sharing photos or video on Instagram or YouTube also helps get people to your site. Okay, I'm going to spend just a few minutes talking about writing for websites, because it is different from the type of writing that you would do for your printed materials. First thing you want to be aware of is keeping your sentences short. Shorter sentences definitely are better than long ones. Think about a one-comma rule. If you have to use more than one comma, you need to probably rework your sentence. Keep things nice and concise. There are all kinds of exceptions to this, but this is, the exceptions to this rule. So it's not set in stone, but typically the idea is you want to keep your sentences short and remember that one comma rule. You also want to keep your paragraph short. If you've got more than 5 lines in a paragraph, that might be one too many. It's hard to read a dense paragraph. And so this is really about what's making it easier for the reader and not so much about making it easy necessarily on the writer. Aesthetics are so important online. First impressions really matter. Try to break up your articles into bite-sized chunks. Avoid multi-idea sentences and paragraphs. All right, use key phrases in your headlines for search engine optimization. If possible, optimize your headlines around key phrases rather than individual keywords, because that's how people search, using phrases. You want to use plain English and you want to keep it conversational. That means you want to avoid jargon and you want to explain things clearly and simply. Writing that's overly formal feels stuffy when you're reading it on a website, and visually it's usually pretty dense. Your web content should be accessible and friendly. You can still be professional and appear intelligent without being dull. Just write how you speak, and for web writing you can actually use contractions. After you've written content, read it aloud. If it sounds stiff, inject some life into the way that you phrased it. Your unique voice can help distinguish you from all of the other organizations that are out there. You want to keep your headlines brief, 6 to 8 words. And you want to try to keep it in a single line. Avoid overdoing it by just one word so that you don't have an orphan on the second line. And this part is mainly about it's really about aesthetic reasons. All right, you want easy to scan pages. According to research by Jacob Nielsen, which is a giant in the world of website usability, the average website reader visits about 20%, or rather reads about 20% of the text on a page. So it's important that each page is appealing and presents information in a way that's easy for a visitor to scan. And here are some ways to do it. You want to avoid left flush paragraphs to keep the reader interested, and you can do that by indenting, bullet points, using quotes, numbered lists, and of course pictures and videos. You want to use subheadings also. Again, these help break up the page and sort your page content into easily digestible chunks. You want to use bulleted lists. And there are two ideas here, bullets and lists. First of all, bullets help highlight information, especially itemized information. But the other idea is that people like lists. Have you noticed how many articles are on the internet that are titled like this? 5 ways to use chicken, 8 tips to save you money, and so on. Itemized information attracts readers, and that's proven by research. You also want to use bolding to highlight certain phrases, words, or sentences, especially in longer articles. It identifies some of the key takeaways for your reader. It helps them make sense of a page when they're skim reading it, and it provides a neat anchor for the eye. On to the next point. You want to use internal links. Add at least one internal link per article to support other pages on your website. And also, don't miss the chance to push readers towards other interesting content. All right, that concludes writing for websites. Now, let's look at SEO, or search engine optimization. Basic search engine optimization is fundamental and it's essential. SEO helps you position your website properly so it can be found when people need your site. I found a quote by an SEO expert who manages the SEO function for the Chicago Tribune, who stressed the importance of basic SEO using the following analogy. Skipping the basics and spending all your time and money on social media and fancy stuff is the same as skipping brushing your teeth and showering with buying white strips or wearing expensive cologne. So that's pretty basic. Just because just about everyone uses the web to get information, and they search for that information before going to a website where your organization pops up in a search on Google or Bing or Yahoo is critical. Imagine someone searching for volunteer opportunities or for the services you provide. You would want your organization's website to be near the top of all of the search results. And being at the top is important because most people don't click beyond the first few search results. Now, there's some technical aspects to SEO that I'm not going to get into with any real detail, but I'm going to mention them so that you're aware of them. But aside from the technical piece, there are steps you can take that will help you raise your profile in the search. All right, so what are search engines looking for? Well, search engines want to do their jobs as best as possible by referring users to websites and to content that is the most relevant to what the user is looking for. So how is relevancy determined? Well, first of all, content. And content is determined by the theme being given, the text on the page, and the titles and the descriptions that are used. Also, performance. How fast is your site, and does your site work properly? Authority. Does your site have good enough content to link to, or do other authoritative sites use your website as a reference or cite the information that's available? By authoritative sites, I mean, first of all, authors and bloggers with a social media presence known in your field. Also, local sources like a Chamber of Commerce, local education sites, local news sites, trade organizations, other charities, radio and TV news stations, and other well-established nonprofits. Also, industry. Whatever business you're in, you probably know of a site or a few sites that you go to for relevant information. These may be sites such as umbrella organizations, certification agencies, and governing bodies. Links to these types of organizations give you authority, and that's important when you start thinking about social media optimization. All right, finally, user experience. How does the site look? Is it easy to navigate around? Does it look safe? Does it have a high bounce rate, meaning the percentage of visits that go only to one page before they exit your site? So those are just some of the things that are the main things, I should say, that a search engine looks for. All right, now some tips for search engine optimization. Keyword research is the first step for search engine optimization. Take the time to figure out what words are used by people you want to visit, your site, and then use these words on the relevant pages. For example, if a potential supporter is searching for small business loans for Latinos in Portland, you want to make sure the relevant web page on your site contains the words small business loans for Latinos in Portland. Make sure you use these keywords in the first few words of your page title, because this is the most important bit of the page from a search engine's perspective. You should do this for all the pages in your site. But remember, don't just stuff the keywords in there. It still has to make sense to your visitors. On one of the resource slides that I provide you, there's an article on some sources to help you determine good keywords. Also, number one is content. Great content needs to be created and kept up to date. Search engines love sites like blogs, which are regularly refreshed. At the end of the day, even a site that ranks well and gets lots of visitors is no good if the visitor doesn't like what they see. So make sure that your content is refreshed and compelling. Next point, build a website that is easy for the search engines to understand. This is a techie issue that I don't fully comprehend myself, but do be aware of the following. Your website should make use of up-to-date technologies like CSS or cascading style sheets. This minimizes the formatting that comes with using HTML page code. When you remove the formatting, you're left with pure content, and search engines love that. If you want to know more about how this works, maybe we can get David, our webinar moderator, to briefly give us some insight at the end of the webinar. Last, you want to make navigation easy. You want to build clear text links to all parts of your site. Search engines can't follow image links or links embedded in animations like Flash. They like their navigation plain and simple, and so do many users. All right. Another tip is that you want to get links from trusted, relevant sources. Links are like a vote for your page, and you can't rank well without them. Unfortunately, buying links or being indiscriminate in the places you link to and the places you request links from is not the way to raise the importance of your site. Might be easy, but that's not the way to do it. Think quality and not quantity. Links have to be relevant to the content matter of your site, and they must be from high-quality websites. Use keywords in the links you have coming to your site. For example, see our affordable homes for sale is a much better incoming link than view our properties. All right, another piece to this is building a sitemap to help the search engines discover every page in your site. Sitemaps list the pages in your site along with a brief, keyword-rich description of the page. If you have too many pages on your site, create as many sitemaps as you need and make sure they're linked together. All right, don't forget the technical stuff. There are lots of things that happen in the background that can cause problems with the way search engines see your site. For example, if you use a cheap web hosting company, your nonprofit site might be on the same web server as a pornographic site that Google doesn't really like, and that's guilt by association. Also, does your website use techniques that search engines don't like certain types of redirection? Again, that's a techie issue that you'll need to discuss with your technical folks. But do bear that in mind. Also, you want to track your progress with web analytics. There's lots of free options to use, and most likely your web hosting service or your content management system already has some reports and tracking included. In addition to this, Google Analytics is easy to use and provides a wealth of information for free. Web Analytics tells you how people interact with your site and where your web traffic is coming from. You can track the progress of any changes that you make to see if they're working. You also want to tell search engines, you need to tell the search engines where you're submitting, excuse me, let me try that one more time. You want to submit your website details to search engines so that they know what's on your site. This doesn't guarantee a better position in the results, but it certainly helps. Both Google and Bing have tools to submit a list of all the pages on your site. Google Webmaster Tools and Bing Webmaster Tools. If you verify your site with Google and Bing, instructions are on the sites, although the process does require a little bit of technical skill. You're also going to find valuable information about how well and how often your site is being examined by the search engines. All right, now we're moving on to social media optimization, or SMO, is the process of increasing awareness of an organization, a product, your brand, or even an event by using social media to generate viral publicity, or in other words, publicity that spreads quickly. All right, in the technology world, there's a debate going on whether SEO is more important than SMO. Right now, they're both necessary for your website, but as the impact of social media grows, some experts are saying that eventually SMO will be more important. And one of the signs is that Google has been making changes to how it ranks pages, changes that are increasingly taking into account the impact of social media. And it makes sense because social media is social. It's about what real people are commenting on, liking, retweeting, sharing, recommending, and talking about. Google also knows that website owners try different techniques to falsely raise their search rankings, and it's much harder to manipulate social media and try and fool Google rankings. SEO and SMO are intertwined, and you'll see that as I talk about how you can optimize your website for social media. There will be techniques that apply to SEO as well. SMO is similar to SEO in that the goal is to drive traffic to your website. SEO is for raising a site's performance and search results. The concept behind SMO is simple. You make changes to optimize a site so that it's more easily linked to, more highly visible in social media searches, and more frequently included in relevant posts on blogs, podcasts, and other types of social media. All right, my basis for talking about social media is a model developed by Joshua Bird. He didn't come up with the concept of social media optimization, but he came up with a good way to tie all of the elements that contribute to SMO together. Plus, it's a good acronym to remind you of what goes into SMO. So let's get into Real SMO. All right, the Real SMO model begins with reputation. This is about being an expert or acting as an expert content curator. This means undertaking thorough research and producing original content or curating quality content. Now let me just give you a few words about content curation. This is a somewhat new buzzword that comes from our new age of social media. What is happening is that people and organizations are now creating and sharing content all over the web. Content curation is the process of sorting through the huge amounts of content on the web and presenting it in a meaningful and organized way around a specific theme. It means sifting, sorting, arranging, and publishing information. A content curator cherry picks the best content that is important and relevant to share with their community. So again, reputation means producing that original content or curating quality content. And so again, with all the content out there, curating is definitely a good option. Your reputation is also about how you engage and support people. Your reputation will be enhanced if you openly share your content and expertise, including content that's not your own. Engage with others through discussions and commenting, and if you're generally friendly and helpful to people while online. The E for engagement. You need to actively engage with your audience. This can include commenting, mentions, shares, likes, and +1s. If you're using Google while signed into your account, you are probably seeing buttons that say +1 next to the search results. When you click the button, you'll be asked to confirm whether you want to recommend the link to your friends. So that's what +1 is all about. It's basically shorthand for this is pretty cool or you should check this out. There's some new research from several different studies on the qualities that cause a high Google ranking, and the results were that +1s were highly correlated with high search rankings, even more than Facebook shares and keywords. All right, so in terms of engagement, you need to target the networks you want to interact with. Think about joining Google Plus communities and LinkedIn groups. You can also encourage people to engage with a call to action. All right, next one, authority. Become a notable authority in your field of expertise. Search engines look for individuals and brands that are seen as authoritative and trusted by real people on the internet. Once again, Google has made a move to identify authority by creating Google Rank and authorship. Because there's so much content being placed on the web, authors with content on the web needed a way to verify their identities, and Google needed a way to identify trusted sources of information. Now, I'm not familiar with the sign-up process, but from what Google describes, it's fairly simple. I do know you first need a Google Plus account. Once you're in, your photo and other information about you becomes part of the search results, and your chances for ranking higher increases. If you want to do it the non-Google way and enhance your authority and the value of your content, have it shared through retweets, bookmarks, and the like. It means you need to be producing content that your audience thinks is valuable. Leadership. This is about doing quality research, thinking, and producing original content. A leader will research everything they can about their field and share thoughtful insights that give value to your audience. You can also create value for your audience through content curation, as I mentioned before. This means adding value to existing content by providing a summary, adding context, or a perspective to the content that you're sharing. Okay, now we're moving on to the SMO part of the Real SMO model, social. You also need to build high-quality social media networks. With SMO, quality potential matters more than quantity. Seek out the experts in your field, read what they say, and engage them in conversations and share your ideas. M for media. It's important you focus on the right media platforms and communities. Where does your audience hang out? Find and focus on those platforms, communities, and groups where your audience is. This also means what's important in each platform. This also means knowing what's important in each platform. For example, retweeting and an app mention on Twitter, tagging and tailoring the title and description of your Facebook posts. If you have a LinkedIn company page, that means a listing of your program services. Next, optimization. And here's where optimizing SMO gets a little technical. Shareable content. Some content is more readily shareable, such as infographics or 5 top tips articles. This is probably because it's short and visually scannable. Images. Well, you know, what can I say about that? Visuals really do say more than 1,000 words, and if you participated in any of our previous webinars, you know that I mentioned visuals over and over again. All right, here's the more technical part, your share buttons. Make it easy to share for users by adding share buttons to your content. You should also know the number of shares you should also show the number of shares to demonstrate social proof. Your social icons. Group and display your social icons in a prominent place on your site. Be sure that you have a social login. Have those options available on your Facebook page, Google+, or your Twitter account so that it makes it easy for users to comment. Title tags. Create good title tags. This is somewhat technical because it involves coding, but essentially the title tag is the main text that describes an online document. It's the second most important on-page search engine element after overall content. It appears in three key places: browsers, search engine results pages, and external websites. And that's the real SMO model. All right, now we're going to get into being mobile friendly while using your smartphone in particular. Take a look at these two images. One is a look at the NFL website before it was optimized for the web, and then after on the right-hand side. Which one would you rather land on? All right, we're going to start by looking at some quick stats on the use of mobile technologies. First of all, mobile technology accounts for 13% of all global Internet traffic. Next, the Pew Internet and American Life Project regularly studies Internet usage. In May 2013, they found 56% of U.S. adults use a smartphone, and of that number, 63% use it to access the Internet. Of particular interest to nonprofits is that 9% of adults have texted a charitable donation from their mobile phone. Another statistic that I found says that by 2016, 80% of the U.S. population will be using a mobile phone. Now, we're not talking about tablets today, but if you're going to think about optimizing your website for mobile users, don't forget tablets. Not shown here are these stats. 31% of the U.S. Internet population used a tablet or an e-reader in 2012. Shipments of tablets are expected to grow to 383.3 million units in 2017 compared to 72.7 million in 2011. That's an increase of 427%. In fact, there are many articles that predict the death of the laptop in the next few years as smartphones and tablets, and who knows what else will be developed to overtake laptop use. Just last night, I saw a commercial for a smart wristwatch where you can access your email, you can get the temperature, and do even more. So now I'd like to take a minute for a quick poll about what's happening with our organizations in terms of optimizing their websites for mobile. Please take a look at this slide and respond. When it comes to having a mobile-friendly website, we have not considered it at all. We're thinking about it. Our website is now mobile-friendly or will be soon. We've got responses, maybe? Okay. All right. 33% say, excuse me, we have not considered it at all. 67% say that they're thinking about it, and 0% say their website is now mobile friendly. So I think that's really great. The fact that you've got 67% that are thinking about it. So that's a really good sign, because I think, you know, you're recognizing that being mobile friendly is the way to go, and doing it now is a perfectly good time to do that. So let's find out how we can be mobile friendly. All right, well, the first thing that you want to do is talk to your organization about committing to going mobile, basically future-proofing your website. Remember, more than 1 billion people access the web from mobile devices, and this is only going to increase. Ideal situation would be to design your website for all devices, from tiny phones, PCs, huge living room flat screens, and soon refrigerator doors, bathroom mirrors, and more, because that's coming too. And in fact, I think if you already have the money, you probably already have a TV on your bathroom mirror. Anyway, the point is that technology is changing quickly because mobile, excuse me. Anyway, the point is that technology is changing quickly, especially mobile, and it's just a matter of time before it's one of the primary ways to access the web. Even if it's a slow process for your organization, the first thing to do is to understand how much traffic is coming from mobile devices. To do this, log in to Google Analytics or set up an account if you don't have one and start to track your mobile traffic. Look for mobile on the left-hand side menu, click there, and it will show you how many visitors are coming to your website via mobile and on what device. The bigger the percentage, the more critical it is to be mobile. Having this type of data and showing growth over time will help make the case for becoming mobile friendly. Next, take a look at your website. When it comes to developing website versions for mobile users, there are more than 500 screen variations that are available across various mobile devices and platforms. As a result, it's important to ensure that your site doesn't look good on one smartphone. It needs to display correctly on as many of these devices as possible. So test your website's mobile friendliness, and there are various ways, free ways to do that, shown here. It's very easy. With all but Gomez, you just type in your web address, and in less than a minute, you get a report letting you know how mobile ready your site is. With Gomez, you register basic information, and I think they email you your results. A lot of the information is very technical, but nevertheless, it is displayed in a way that lets you know, whether you're a techie or not, what kind of shape your website is in terms of mobile readiness. And do your own first-hand research by looking at your website from the point of view of your audience on your own mobile phone. There are 3 basic ways to go mobile. First, you can simplify your site design so that it looks better on a mobile phone. Pull up your website on a smartphone and see if you need design changes. To display well on mobile, use smaller page designs. You need you need large font sizes, and that important information has to be placed above the fold, and big touchable buttons that are clumsy finger-proof. Minimally, you'll go a long way for delivering key information on any device simply by putting your name, phone number, a link to your organization, or a link to a map of your organization, or any other information that's critical to your audience at the top left of your home page where it's easy to find. The second way to go mobile is that you can create a mobile version of your site. As an alternative to editing your website, you can create a parallel version using mobile site design services, many of which are free or low cost, but there are trade-offs. If your mobile site has a second URL, such as one that begins with an M subdomain, search engines may or may not find it. Both Bing and Google advocate a one URL approach for findability and search engine optimization. Still, creating a mobile site that links to your main site isn't the worst strategy. The worst strategy is to ignore your mobile audience altogether. Excuse me. All right. Next, number 3. The best bet here is to rebuild your site for display on any device. And here's where the terms adaptive and responsive site design come into play. Adaptive design is the high end of website design. It's used by big companies that invest huge amounts of money to reach the largest audiences possible. Adaptive design basically detects and identifies the user's device, and then it generates a page matched to the device. Responsive design is the more affordable solution. It uses CSS, or Cascading Style Sheets technology, to create a single version of a website that automatically adjusts to display properly on all devices except the oldest cell phones. Responsive web design enables you to optimize your site experience across different screen sizes without creating multiple websites. A responsive site adjusts images, layouts, and content according to the screen size of a device. It uses your website address, so you don't have to have a mobile address. And having that consistent URL makes it easier. Okay, I was pausing there because I think we were getting a lot of static. So, all right, let me just back up here a bit. Responsive web design enables you to optimize your site experience across different screen sizes without creating multiple websites. A responsive site adjusts images, layouts, and content according to the screen size of the device. It uses your website address, so you don't have to have a mobile address, and having that consistent URL makes it easier for your users to interact with, share, and link to your content. Now, one other option that I didn't mention because I didn't think it was the most practical mobile option for nonprofits, and that's a mobile app. But I thought I'd mention it just in case your website or your programming lends itself to an app. All right, here's some things to consider when going mobile. First of all, audience-centered content equals limited content. One of the first mistakes website owners tend to make when building mobile versions of their sites is to assume that every single piece of information that can be found on their full sites needs to be included in the mobile environment. The result is a cluttered mobile website version that's frustrating to navigate on a mobile device. So focus on providing only the types of information your website visitors need to take action or to make a decision. Google Analytics can give you some insights into what users are looking for on your website, and this might help you narrow down what content to include in your mobile site. But mobile use is different. People access websites on mobile devices for three main reasons: to save time, to connect with others, and to pass the time or as a diversion. In other words, they play games or read while waiting for a doctor's appointment. So give thought to what your mobile audience might want and prioritize the content they need most. So in terms of limited content, some of the types of information you might want to include would be your content information front and center, links to maps and directions, a link to your main website, and no matter how carefully you customize the content on your mobile website version, there will still be users who want to access the features and information found on your full website. So for this reason, it's important to include a link back to your full site somewhere on your mobile-friendly site version. Typically, this is done near the bottom of the screen, but that depends on your design. All right, the next point. You want to talk and present information in sound bites. This means concise writing. This also means short descriptive phrases for retweets. You also want to have scroll menus, and you want to use bullet points, and you want to use action buttons instead of words. If brevity is key in writing for websites, it's really more important for mobile sites. And that's because your screen is so small. You keep your text short, sweet, and to the point. Make it catchy. Create memorable phrases that your audience can easily retweet out because there's lots of social activity happening on mobile, and so you want to take advantage of it. You can also include a short testimonial from a satisfied customer, or client, rather. So, excuse me. All right, let me move on to more tips for going mobile. In a visually tight space like mobile, appearance plays a major role in the user's experience. Make sure that your landing page is clean, clear, and concise. Visitors can always click through buttons to access more information on the secondary page. You want a clean background to help readability. Don't let your background visually compete with the text. Make sure the text color is easily visible on the background and that it doesn't get lost in the pattern. This applies to your website and this applies to your mobile website as well. Your font size. The goal should be to draw the average viewer in with easily legible text, eliminating the need to zoom in on the screen. You don't want your viewers squinting to read text or unable to discern the letters. You want to mimic your website's visual branding across traditional and mobile sites. Doing this reinforces your image, your brand, and gives a consistent experience to previous website users, and it helps to build trust with people who are just getting to know your organization. Images really increase the appeal of a mobile site, but they also quickly sum up your message. For nonprofits especially, the right image can connect you to your viewer in a way that might not be possible with only text and a mobile screen. Easy navigation. You definitely want to have consistent navigation features. You want to keep important features and structure consistent across the entire site. You want to use a single column layout on a mobile website. Even though smartphone users are larger than their predecessors, even though smartphones are larger than their predecessors, they're still not big enough to effectively support more than a single column layout when displaying content. This is a significant design alteration to make to your main web design, but it's well worth the effort in terms of boost. A single column content layout that uses the entire width of the screen avoids the need for a user to pan back and forth or to zoom in. Modular structure. I'm going to show you an example of what I mean by that. And basically, think of modules or blocks. Lead your potential audience to the heart of the information by making a clear path to the action you want visitors to complete. You want them to RSVP, you want them to download or submit. But whatever your call to action is, make sure that it's very clear. All right. If you use any type of form, say to sign up volunteers or to donate, make sure that your form fields are as few as possible. Basically, no more than 6. This keeps your page neat and streamlined. Next point is you want to set up your own analytics. It's a good idea to set up a plan for tracking your analytics in advance. One stunning reason is that 2/3 of mobile traffic does not allow for third-party cookies. And that means it doesn't allow things like Google to track what's happening. This can make it really difficult for you to know the effectiveness of your mobile performance. For example, an iPad and an iPhone don't allow cookies unless you turn them on manually, and you can't assume that consumers are going to do that. In fact, if they know how, most of the time they're going to turn them off. So the solution to this is to use analytics software that uses first-party cookies to track visitors. Ultimately, you need to know what's happening in order to improve your site's performance. You want to make usability a priority. That means you want to be able to scroll down, no pinching and zooming, and no scrolling across. Basically, that's what a modular single one-column layout will do for you. You want to design for clumsy fingers. You also want to use drop-down menus, checkable boxes, and other touch types of options. And you want to be able to make sure that your mobile website scales for both landscape and portrait. And also, you want to avoid flash. Now, flash is a technical issue. If you use an iPhone periodically, you may have noticed that you get a message that a site uses flash and it's not accessible on your phone. And that's what this means. So avoid coding your mobile site in flash or using flash video because it's not going to load on all devices. All right. Next point is you want to make your interface actions easy. You want to use well-placed icons, clicks, and buttons, action buttons. Your visitors are viewing your page on a phone, and there are plenty of easy action options you can provide for them. Use well-placed icons, clicks, and action buttons for phone calls, maps, Facebook, Twitter, email, visiting a URL, or to play a video. All right, let's just take a quick look at this slide again and review the before and after differences. What you see on the right-hand side is a good example of a modular one-column layout. When I say modules, I'm talking about each of these components here. What you have is a clear landing page. It's very clean looking and it's very legible. If you take a look at the before, while you might be interested in some of the images, there's a lot going on there. It's very hard to read, and you've got a lot of different components competing with one another. So before and after, and I hope that this has given you some idea of what to look for in terms of a mobile-friendly layout. All right. Finally, I wanted to encourage you today to think about your mobile user's experience and use that to open the doors to discussing a move to a mobile-friendly website. I hope that your mobile visitors have a good experience and that they're pulling out that credit card to make a donation. Now, I'm going to review some of the resources that I've compiled to help you out. All right, early on in this presentation, I mentioned some of the key components to a good web design. And I mentioned a checklist. You've got that checklist right here. Google Analytics. I've mentioned that several times throughout this presentation, how important it is to know what's happening in terms of your website. And so here are some pieces of some links to some information that can help you. I also mentioned Google rank and authorship in terms of SMO and how important it is that you begin to develop authority in the social media world. And here is information on how to access that through Google. Rather, what it is, it's a Forbes article that breaks it out for you. You would need to set up a Google account in order to sign up for Google authorship and Google rank. But the Forbes article will give you a good idea of what it's all about. And then I also mentioned that this particular webinar will be posted both as a video and a PDF on our website, and here is that link for you. Okay, I also mentioned earlier that there's a website that will show you an image of what your website looks like above the fold, and here it is. I showed you earlier a diagram of a web page, and in case you're interested in looking at that, that is here. All right, I mentioned also some websites where you can test your website for mobile friendliness, and here are the links to those sites. You want to test the loading speed of your website onto a mobile device, you can do that here at this particular link. Also, more information on how to go mobile. There are some links here that I think you'll find very helpful. All right, search engine optimization. Again, here are some articles that will help you. I wanted to just point out to you that Google has a one-pager guide that you might be interested in. It's pretty handy. Let's see here. All right, social media optimization. Here's some links that will help you as well. So that concludes my presentation. I hope that we've given you information that can help you in terms of taking a good look at your website and in being mobile friendly, and it supports you in the good work that you do for your communities. Remember that this presentation will be posted on the NALCAB website. Click on membership, then click on links and resources, and then fair housing resources. All right, I'll be happy to take any questions you might have, and let me just apologize for my scratchy voice here. Like I mentioned, it's allergy season here in San Antonio, and so I've had some difficulty speaking, but I hope that you've been able to understand me. Any questions? All right, we've got questions already. Nope, none yet. All right.
Yes, they can have a direct link to the presentation. So it's posted later on.
Yeah, let me read you the actual link to get you to our page. It's not posted yet, but let me read it to you, all right? Or you know what, let me just show it to you. How about that? That might be easier. Okay. It's going to be posted here, I would think, probably in a day or two, and it will be found here. http://nalcab.org/fair housing #webinars. And like I mentioned, it'll probably be a day or two before it gets posted, but it will be available there, both in PDF as well as the actual webinar itself. Any other questions, David? No? Going once, going twice, all right. All right, thank you so much for being on this webinar. Stay connected with us through Facebook, Twitter, and our website. Thank you.